All right. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thank you for being with us this morning. We're going to begin our show with new developments in the push to end the Department of Homeland Security shutdown that's creating all this chaos we're seeing at airports across the country. President Trump is considering a two-step Senate Republican plan that would initially fund all of DHS except for ICE. Funding for that would then come through a spending bill at a separate time.
Pay for TSA workers would also be restored in the first step. Many of those workers have been calling out and quitting in record numbers, triggering those massive security lines at airports across the country. Now, in response, the president made the controversial call to deploy ICE agents to help out at airports. Roadblocks to a deal do still remain, with some lawmakers in both parties voicing frustrations about the proposal. NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr joins us with the latest. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. Yeah, a lot of people watching this closely, maybe getting ready for a trip, hoping for some good news here. The Department of Homeland Security has gone without funding for 40 days now in a fight over immigration enforcement that spilled over to the nation's airports and ramped up the pressure to make a deal. This morning, hope to halt the insanity at crowded airports across the country.
It is very overwhelming right now.
As President Trump signals he's considering a Senate Republican plan to fund the Department of Homeland Security and restore TSA worker pay.
We're going to take a good hard look at it. I want to support Republicans.
The two-step proposal would fund all of DHS except for immigration enforcement under ICE, which Democrats are refusing to put more money into without major reforms. They have repeatedly sought to fund TSA and other agencies while negotiations continue.
Republicans have rejected it every time. I think now they may be open to it.
In step two, according to four sources familiar with negotiations, Republicans want to fully fund ICE through a separate reconciliation bill that doesn't require votes from Democrats, while also trying to pass limited parts of the Save America Act elections bill that President Trump has made his top priority, previously telling GOP lawmakers not to back anything that doesn't include it.
Don't make any deal on anything unless you include voter ID.
The potential shift comes amid mounting pressure from frustrated travelers, with ICE agents now tasked with helping to move security lines at some of the nation's busiest airports.
We can just pay the TSA workers and get those people to come back to do the job that they've been trained for.
All while questions remain about the ICE reforms Democrats have been holding out for.
Bottom line, reforms must make it into law.
As everyone looks for the end of the line. Leaders from the TSA, FEMA, and the Coast Guard are set to testify today on Capitol Hill about the impact of this shutdown, while union leaders press lawmakers not to leave for a recess set to begin on Monday, not to board planes that TSA workers screened for free, as they put it, without coming to a solution.
So, Alice, as this shutdown is dragged down, we sort of are waiting to see if airlines would flex their muscles. It looks like at least one airline is trying to put pressure on Congress. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that airline is Delta, saying that it's suspending specialty services for members of Congress, like expedited screening and escorts, to bypass security lines. The airline is citing the strain on TSA officers working without pay. And some members of Congress have actually called for this kind of change as well, considering it's just not a great look under the circumstances, guys.
All right, Alice Barr, thank you.
Well, here in New York, NTSB investigators are revealing new details about what they call the, quote, many issues that led to the deadly runway collision at LaGuardia Airport on Sunday night, including a vital piece of equipment missing from the fire truck that was struck. Concerns are also being raised over air traffic control tower staffing that night. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock has the details on the investigation from LaGuardia.
Fresh off the horror of this Air Canada jet landing at LaGuardia and plowing into a fire truck responding to an emergency call, investigators circled the wreckage and peered inside the aircraft in search of answers.
There are multiple layers of defense built in to prevent an accident. So when something goes wrong, that means many things went wrong.
In this case, one was a safety net ground radar system that alerts controllers of impending danger, but in this case never issued an alert, potentially because the fire truck didn't have a transponder.
If this truck would have had a transponder, it very well could have provided that alert that the controller could have used.
NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy also revealing what the agency's learning about tower staffing Sunday night.
For the midnight shift, it is standard operating procedure that they only have two on duty. Certainly, I can tell you, that our air traffic control team has stated this is a problem, that this is a concern for them for years.
These questions coming as the country faces a chronic shortage of controllers, and comments like this surfacing on NASA's anonymous aviation reporting system. With a pilot writing in August of last year about LaGuardia, the controllers are pushing the line. On thunderstorm days, LGA is starting to feel like DCA did before the accident there. Please do something.
What is your margin for error when you're on the job?
Zero error. You have to be perfect every single time.
David Riley spent 22 years as an FAA controller and says even two controllers in a tower at night doesn't leave much wiggle room for breaks or fatigue.
When you don't have that extra body there to help out when things happen, it could have tragic results.
The realities of the traumatizing crash that killed pilots Antoine Foray and Mackenzie Gunther, whose Canadian college lowered its flags, still sinking in for the passengers, too.
You just heard the loudest boom.
Rebecca LaCory said she was surprised she survived, and getting off the plane proved a true team effort.
There was no slide because the flight crew in the front was hurt. We just took it upon ourselves. I opened the emergency exit on the left. A gentleman opened the emergency exit on the right, and everyone got out.
Now, while the NTSB has yet to specify which of the two controllers was responsible for giving clearance to the truck that you still see is on the tarmac right now, we did learn a very interesting and potentially troubling piece of information from the NTSB chair, who said that despite the fact that it is protocol to remove someone after an incident like this, the 11:38 incident happened, and then it was not until midnight that a shift change occurred. So at a minimum, there could have been a 20-minute period where the person responsible for providing clearance for this stayed on the job when the protocol is to check them for things like drugs or alcohol or overall health. That did not happen, and Hamandi says she has, quote, a lot of questions about that. From LaGuardia, Sam Brock, NBC News. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Sam.
Let's move now to the latest from the ongoing war with Iran. President Trump just approved the deployment of more than 1,000 soldiers from the Army's 82nd Airborne Division to the Middle East.
Two sources familiar with the matter told NBC News that about half the brigade, less than 1,500 troops, could leave the U.S. in the coming days. The division specializes in parachute assault. These soldiers will join more than 50,000 U.S. troops already assigned to the Middle East, as well as 10,000 troops from the Amphibious Ready Group and the Marine Expeditionary units who have been deployed in the past week.
NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now from Doha, Qatar, with more on this. Raf, good morning. So Iran launched attacks against Qatar's energy infrastructure after Israel bombed Iran's gas field. Just what is the latest on the ground there in Qatar, and how much damage did these strikes have on the energy infrastructure there?
Joe, Savannah, good morning. Very extensive damage to the energy infrastructure here in Qatar, specifically to its ability to export liquefied natural gas. Now, we talk about this less than we talk about oil, but it is a major, major global energy source. An Iranian ballistic missile hitting the Ras Laffan facility. That's about 40 miles north of where we are right now. And authorities here in Qatar say their ability to export is down by about 20%. They think that they are going to lose about $20 billion a year as a result of this. And unlike oil, guys, liquefied natural gas is much more complicated to ship. You have to freeze it to a very, very, very low temperature. So it goes from gas to oil, and then you can put it on a specialist tanker and it can be moved. But a number of those freezing facilities have been damaged. And so authorities here in Qatar are saying this could take 5 years to repair. So even if the war were to stop tomorrow, this is long-term damage, long-term disruption to the energy markets, whereas oil supplies, most experts think, could be up and running back at normal in something like 4 to 6 weeks. Guys.
Raf, there are just so many questions about these diplomatic talks, negotiations that we first heard about from the president earlier this week, and then some back and forth between the U.S. and Iran on what is going on. And I know 4 sources tell us that Pakistan is joining the growing list of countries really acting as like a go-between here between the U.S. and Iran in these conversations. And you recently asked a spokesman for Qatar's foreign ministry if his country was involved in those talks. What did he tell you?
Yeah, Savannah, so Qatar's foreign ministry seemed a sensible place to ask the question that the whole world wants an answer to. Are these negotiations for real? Could they actually end the war? Or is this President Trump just trying to drive down the price of oil temporarily? Qatar, as you'll remember, has traditionally been a mediator here in the Middle East. They were the brokers between Israel and Hamas over Gaza. And they are a country that, as we've been talking about, have been hit very intensively by Iranian drone and missile attacks. So it would make sense that if anybody was going to have an insight into how these talks were going, it would be Qatar. Take a listen to what the foreign ministry spokesman told me.
President Trump has said talks with Iran are going perfectly. He says that there are major points of agreement. Based on what you know about the negotiations, do you share his optimism that there could be a negotiated ceasefire sometime in the near future?
Qatar is not involved in these talks. Our views about any talks, if they exist, are consistent with our very principled position that all conflicts will end on the negotiation table, and we support all of these efforts.
So you heard him there say Qatar is not involved in these talks if they exist. And he clearly was not expressing the level of optimism that President Trump has over the last couple of days, that we could be potentially very close to a ceasefire. What we do know, as you said, Savannah, is that Pakistan has emerged as a potential mediator. Pakistan would make sense. It is a country that has open lines of communication with both Iran and the United States. But unlike Qatar, unlike the other Gulf Arab state of Oman, it's not being shot at by Iran right now. So it has some ability to present itself as a neutral go-between. The Prime Minister of Pakistan has said that if and when the U.S. and Iranian sides want to meet, they could do that in Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan. At this point, we don't have any date or any timetable for those meetings. We have heard from President Trump that on the American side, it is Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner who are involved, as well as Vice President J.D. Vance. What we do not know at this stage is who is negotiating on the Iranian side. The president made this slightly cryptic comment in the Oval Office yesterday, saying that the Iranians had given the U.S. some kind of gift to do with oil and gas, to do with the Strait of Hormuz, and that gives him confidence that whoever it is on the Iranian side has the authority to make a deal. Guys.
Raph Sanchez. Raph, thank you so much.
NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz joins us now from Washington with more on the war with Iran. Megan, good morning. So let's start with these troops. More than 1,000 heading to the Middle East in the coming days. What are sources telling NBC News about this new deployment, and how does it line up with what we have heard from the president?
Yeah, hey, Joe and Savannah, good morning. So these troops are part of the 82nd Airborne Division, which is part of an infantry division that specializes in parachute assault. Now, I do want to note these soldiers have not yet left the United States, but could potentially in the coming days. Now, big picture here, there are more than 50,000 troops that are assigned to the Middle East right now. As you mentioned, as Ralph mentioned earlier as well, President Trump has also been expressing some optimism potentially about coming to some kind of deal with Iran, in reference yesterday to reporters, Iran giving the U.S. some kind of present. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Because they're going to make a deal. They're going to make a deal. They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today.
Now, President Trump also noted that that present had something to do with oil and gas and the Strait of Hormuz. But I do want to note, Joe and Savannah, we do not know what specifically he was referring to or details about that potential present, and we cannot independently confirm that Iran has sent some kind of present to the United States. Joe and Savannah.
And Megan, we just talked with Raph about Pakistan. Looks like playing this go-between role between Iran and the U.S. What else are we hearing about that?
Yeah, so a source is telling NBC that Pakistan has been having conversations with both the U.S. and with Iran, and that Pakistan is poised to play an active role in talks to potentially end the war. Now, sources also telling NBC that there's the possibility of some kind of meeting in Pakistan in the coming days. Now, the White House, meanwhile, has not confirmed this. They have said instead that they have not confirmed whether Pakistan is acting as some kind of intermediary. They've said that these are sensitive diplomatic discussions and that this is a fluid situation as well. But I do want to note, as you can see on your screen, that President Trump has amplified a post from Pakistan's prime minister, where the prime minister said that his country stands ready and honored to be the host to facilitate meaningful and conclusive talks for a comprehensive settlement of the ongoing conflict. Joe and Savannah.
Megan, we're also learning that Saudi Arabia's crown prince has President Trump's ear in these negotiations with Iran in some way. What are we learning there?
Yeah, that's right. So a senior Saudi official telling NBC News that the crown prince has expressed to President Trump that there is concern from Saudi Arabia about the possibility of leaving Iran both angry and still having the capability of striking allies in the region. Now, that source also telling NBC that the crown prince has expressed to the United States that Israel should not attack civilian infrastructure, expressing concern about the possibility of Iran not having a functional infrastructure after the war and the possibility that that could potentially lead to more hatred of the U.S. and allies, making them potential targets of Iran in the future. Now, the White House was asked about these conversations, and White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that the White House does not comment on the president's private conversations. Joe and Savannah.
All right, Megan, thank you so much.
It is another day of record highs across a good chunk of the country, so let's get more on this early spring heat with your morning news now weather.
Angie Lassman's here. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hi, guys. Good morning. It's hard to find a spot across the country that we're not going to see a record high. You can see dozens and dozens of them as we get through at least the beginning half of our weekend. And this heat is not letting up anytime soon. So let's talk about exactly what we're going to see across the West today. We've got multiple locations that we're likely going to see break records again. Phoenix at 100 degrees. That record for today's date, 96. So we'll likely hit that. 88 in Denver, the record for this date, 75 degrees, 91 for Oklahoma City. And this is all because we have that ongoing heat dome kind of ushering in and trapping all of that really warm air. So even as far east as St. Louis today, we're going to see temperatures more than 20 degrees above normal. Minneapolis, you top out at 71, Pittsburgh at 63, 85 in Jackson, and into the 90s for both El Paso and San Antonio. And as we look ahead to tomorrow, more of the same essentially. Notice still across the west, specifically the southwest, into the 90s. We've got 90s for Kansas City in March. That's pretty crazy. 33 degrees above normal for that location for tomorrow. Upper 60s for Detroit and New York City, and upper 70s for Raleigh. We'll see kind of cooler conditions settling in by the time the weekend comes around across parts of the Great Lakes in the Northeast, and even some milder conditions across parts of the South. Notice the 86 degrees on Friday in Raleigh, down to 59 on Saturday. So a bit of a mixed bag there. Otherwise, we've got fire alerts across parts of the Rockies and the Plains. 7 million people at risk. I just told you all about that heat, but we've also got dry air in place and some gusty winds. So be careful of that. That's something we'll watch at least through the day today and potentially into tomorrow in some locations. And then this next round of storms is on deck. By tomorrow, we'll see those kind of ramp up specifically across the Ohio Valley, Detroit to Cincinnati, Columbus, Illinois, or Indianapolis rather, Springfield, all included. Hail and strong tornadoes possible, and some wind gusts as well. So that'll be something we keep a close eye on. By Friday, a lot of that rain works into the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, and then we'll see some colder conditions behind that in some of those locations. So we know warm air hits cold air. We've got some of those severe storms coming our way, and that's exactly what we're going to expect tomorrow.
That time of year. All right. Thanks, Angie.
Thank you. We are hearing shocking details from the wife of a Hawaii doctor who's on the stand testifying against her own husband in his trial for attempted murder a year after he allegedly tried to kill her while on a hike. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson was in the courtroom and has the latest.
Yes, I do.
A stoic Ariel Koenig taking the stand in her husband's attempted murder trial.
I'm screaming and he's telling me, shut the up. Nobody's going to hear you out here. Nobody's coming to save you.
Her testimony haunting, at times harrowing.
I was screaming, and so he's covering my mouth and stuff. And then we had this moment of like, it seems like he takes a deep breath. And then he just starts hitting my face and my head with a rock.
Exactly 1 year ago, on her birthday, she says her own husband tried to push her off a cliff. She was on a hike in Oahu with her husband, Hawaii anesthesiologist Dr. Gerhard Koenig, when she says his mood suddenly changed.
He's on top of me, and he had a syringe in his hand, and he says, hold still.
Ariel says she swatted the syringe away as a pair of hikers looked on in horror.
There's a man trying to kill her. She's blood all over her face.
Sarah Bucksbaum placed that 911 call.
Can you describe seeing the defendant's eyes?
It's like a cold, emotionless stare.
Unfaithful, unwilling, and untrue.
His attorneys say Ariel was engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a man she worked with.
You described it to the detective simply as some flirty text messages with a coworker, correct?
That's what it was, sir.
They say she first attacked Koenig.
She attacked him, pushed him, and they ended up in a scuffle on the ground. He never tried to throw off the cliff.
Steve Patterson, NBC News.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.